Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PSE Ready webinar to support the use of the PSE Ready tools. We're happy that you were able to join us today for this webinar to teach you how to use the PSE Ready, which can help support your use, your community nutrition work. While there are a number of PSE topic areas, the PSE or the BCOP project focuses on 4 areas: healthy eating and childcare, farmers markets, healthy food retail, and farm to school, which we will use today to walk us through the website and the tools it houses. So let's begin. First, we would like to acknowledge the BCOP partnership, which was established in 2014 to support community nutrition and public health professionals develop, implement, and sustain PSE interventions. To quickly introduce ourselves, my name is Jennifer King, and I am the Research Associate for BCOP. Karen Valeris, the Project Coordinator for BCOP, and I will be presenting this 4-part webinar series, so feel free to reach out to us at bcop@case.edu if you have any questions or concerns after today's training. Here's a quick look at the rest of our colleagues who make up the BCOP team at Case Western Reserve University, Ohio State University's SNAP Ed program, and the Ohio Department of Health's Creating Healthy Communities program. So during the registration process, we asked that you all identify your service area in Ohio. And we see that majority of you are coming from the Central Ohio area. We also saw from the data that just about 2% of you serve all of Ohio. Now, we're really happy that we have a range of current and budding professionals, from program assistants and coordinators to interns, joining us today for the webinar. Now, whether you're new or know a bit about the PSE Ready tool, we want to share some useful acronyms with you. However, we know that it's likely not the first time that you've heard of them. So we're going to start with BCOP, which is the Building Capacity for Obesity Prevention, and that's the name of the project that we're working on. Next, we have PSEs, or Policy, System, and Environmental Interventions. And lastly, kind of putting it all together, is the PSE Ready, or the PSE Readiness Assessment and Decision Instrument, which is the tool the website is named after. However, as you'll see today, it houses many other tools. Now, before we jump into the webinar, we would like to go over some housekeeping guidelines. During the webinar, your speakers will be muted, meaning we cannot hear you, but you are encouraged to use the chat or Q&A features to communicate with us. By clicking on either of these icons that's located on the Zoom navigation bar, a window will open on the right side of your screen, and one of us will respond and help you troubleshoot any issues. Also, please make sure that you log into your pseready.org account, as we will be navigating the site together. If you have not registered for an account yet, please use the link that has been shared in the chat box to do so. We advise that you use an email address that you check often, because the system will send your confirmation email there. The webinar is being recorded and will be available to view in the near future. Now, lastly, please note that while your computer screen mirrors ours, images may be affected by the screen size or dimensions of your personal device. If you seem to have any connectivity issues, please use the Zoom information that has been posted in the chat box for your reference. You can also call us, and we will be able to help you further troubleshoot. Now, before we get started, we'd like to learn a little more about you. And we're going to go ahead and activate our first poll. Okay, so we'd like to know, what types of farm to school PSE initiatives are you currently working on? And you should be able to select all that apply. Okay, we're going to give you all about 10 more seconds to vote. All right, so from these results, we can see that there is actually quite a bit of variety in what you all are doing. And even though we see this list on the screen, it certainly isn't an exhaustive list of initiatives, but we're really excited to see what else others are doing and that you may like to share in the chat box. So before we get into today's webinar, we want you to know that our work builds on the University of Minnesota Extension Systems Approaches for Healthy Communities, which we found to be a great resource to help you understand the context of PSEs and how many of you are already using them in your work. Additionally, a resource that really complements this work is one that many of you may already be familiar with, which is the Ed Toolkit. It houses an interactive map that you can use to explore more about PSE approaches in the faith-based community, farmers markets, retail, work with farmers, and of course, our school and community gardens. We encourage you to check out these resources to further support your PSE work. Now, we hope that by the end of this webinar, you will be able to become familiar with the website and its resources, as well as learn how to take an assessment and use the tailored report. Now, please note that these are umbrella objectives and that each webinar will highlight a different PSE area, which again for today is Farm to School and includes example PSE projects such as promoting school gardens, increasing salad bar activities at school, and increasing locally grown food purchased for school cafeteria meal preparation. Now, to briefly review the agenda for today's 1-hour webinar, Karen will help you navigate through the website, its resource library of nearly 1,000 tools, guides, handouts, and even websites, as you'll see today. We'll take a look at our PSEs in action videos, as well as an assessment. This will be followed by my review of a tailored PSE READI report and its recommendations. We will leave the rest of the time, which will be approximately 15 minutes, for a Q&A session. So Karen will now get us started.
Thanks, Jennifer. So we all know that all communities are different, and so their capacity and readiness to change will also differ. So we created pscreadi.org, and the website was created with this in mind to support community nutrition programs in diverse areas across Ohio. So we wanted to take into account the idea that one intervention does not fit all communities in all circumstances. So by using the PSE READI website, you'll have a chance to assess, plan, and act based on your local community readiness and capacity. Our ultimate goal with BCOP is to support efforts across Ohio to make the healthy choice the easy choice for low-income populations. So as Jennifer mentioned today, I'm going to be walking through our website features, which includes our extensive resource library, our PSEs in Action video series, and the PSE READI assessments currently available in 4 topic areas. And so to briefly review that again, they are healthy eating and childcare, farmers market, healthy food retail, and farm to school. Later on, Jennifer will speak more about how to use your PSE READI reports that you get from taking your assessments, and you can use this as a guide to help you figure out your immediate next steps in your PSE planning. Before I continue on, I'd like to remind everyone that this is a training that's meant to be interactive, so please use the chat box at any time if you have any comments or questions that you want to share with us, and we will answer them as soon as we can. So for today's website walkthrough, you can either follow along in your accounts to get firsthand experience navigating pscreadi.org and its tools, or you can just watch today's webinar and use the video recording later on to help you navigate the website on your own. So today, we're going to use the case study video that we suggested everyone watch before attending our webinar today, entitled Volunteer Engagement, Contributions to School Garden Success. So we're going to be learning a little bit more about the Benjamin Franklin Elementary School in Cleveland and what they've been doing to support the farm to school curriculum in their school.
Master gardeners are a part of Ohio State Extension, and they come out and work with the school very closely, and they work with every fourth grader, and they come out into the garden. They worked with the school to develop the curriculum for the fourth grader. And the master gardeners also have a demonstration bed as well as the school garden out there, and then the community garden is also out. Well, it's about a 5-acre.
Children come to us who are used to fast food. They are introduced into tasting things. And at the end of the school year, we talk about what was your favorite class of all. It's always salad day and potato soup day.
Many of the children in this district have little or no knowledge of the food they eat, where it comes from, whether it's good or bad for them. We wanted them to see how these plants grow, the part of the plant that we eat, and why it might be good for us too, to eat more of these things. So they're getting an education that we don't get anywhere else.
I've been out here a few times with the kids as well in the master gardeners, and I just think it's great, the connection that they see harvesting their food, getting to eat it. A lot of kids don't like to try different vegetables, but once they're growing it themselves, then it really makes a difference. See that they're really interested in trying new things.
They were so happy that there were no books or papers and pencils involved in what we do, and they could go out there and carry buckets of stuff and help spread it. They really enjoyed the physical part of it.
So the master gardeners are an integral part of this project. Without them, this project would not be possible.
Because even in the summer when the children are not here, the gardens outside have to be maintained, or we have nothing to show them in the fall.
So as we saw in the video, the Master Gardeners from OSU Extension shared with us many ways that they engage students with their curriculum, such as doing taste tests and allowing them to actively help tend and harvest in the garden. So now I'd like to get some feedback from you all. What are some of the ways that you've engaged your students and parents to participate in school gardening activities? And you can list some of those ways in the chat box.
So I think one interesting way that practitioners might be able to help schools engage with both students and parents in school gardening activities are quite possibly through the concept of a parent-teacher conference. So instead of having the conference quite possibly in a stuffy classroom or in the school, kind of bringing it outside into the school garden and kind of working together as a team to be able to not only learn about what the student is doing and how well they're doing in the classroom, but also to be able to kind of create that engaging environment for the student, the teacher, and their family as well.
I also agree, and it's a great way for parents to also learn how to best bring these foods back to the home, especially if their child is learning how to eat new vegetables. They can learn new ways on how to incorporate that in their meals at home as well. So does anyone have any other ways that they would engage their students and parents to participate in school gardening activities? Okay, so as we saw in the video, the Master Gardeners created a curriculum along with the school administrators to educate the students about how fruits and vegetables grow and involve them in the gardening and harvesting process, so that they would also have that hands-on component to the curriculum. So would anyone like to share what stood out for them in the video? And what are some of the ways you've engaged your school staff or even administration at your local schools or your community to help them have that buy-in, as you mentioned?
So Karen, I'll share, while we're waiting on our attendees to give us some feedback, I'll share what stood out for me from the video. I actually worked in the neighborhood of Old Brooklyn, which is where the Benjamin Franklin Community Garden is located. And it was really nice to see the Master Gardeners and the students out and kind of working together and learning and having the students learn more about where their food is coming from. There were days that I would take a quick break from work and from being in the office and kind of go by the garden, because it was not only a place to allow the students to learn, but it was also a place for them to kind of de-stress and decompress from being in the classroom during the day. So I think that was really something that stood out for me, and it was a really nice way to engage the school staff as well.
Great. So in the chat box, we're seeing, so someone mentioned that when school administrators see the excitement and interest from students, that can create some buy-in from them. And I do agree with that. I think if it starts with the students and the students are really interested in what they're learning about and really engage with what they're doing, it encourages the adults and the administration to also support those activities. So thank you for sharing that. So another attendee mentioned that what stood out for them was seeing older adults interacting with the younger students and having that intergenerational cooperation to collect produce, which I think is another really great thing that I also saw in the video. It was really nice to see the younger students connecting with older adults in a positive way and learning from them about how to not only plant a seed, but what happens after you plant the seed and what it can produce, and then also working together to harvest the produce that they were able to grow together. So thank you so much for sharing that. Right, so teachers using the gardening as a reading area, that's another great way to encourage participation and engagement, also getting students outside, but then also adults outside as well. And another great way to have the buy-in. Someone else mentioned OSU Extension Franklin County, SNAP-Ed, working with local community gardens by using the produce from the garden to make a salsa with the kids. And they were able to explore how food grows, safe food prep, and tasting a new vegetable, which is also a really great way to get students to engage and also to learn about new vegetables that they can then also go home and teach their parents about. And hopefully that can also be translated to their meals at home as well. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. Those are all really great ways to engage students, and not only students, but parents and administration and school staff to support local school farm efforts and to get that buy-in. So thank you so much again for sharing your thoughts. So keeping these really great ideas in mind, we're going to explore the website and its associated tools through the lens of these Master Gardeners in Cleveland. So this is our landing page for pscreadi.org. From this page, you can decide where you'd like to explore. As you can see, we do have a navigation bar with different links that you can click on in order to take you to a different page. But regardless of where you are on the website, if you want to navigate back to this landing page, you would just click on the BCOP logo at the top of the page. So let's say, for example, the Master Gardeners are doing a great job with their curriculum, but they kind of want to add new projects to engage students in their work in the garden. So they would be able to use pscreadi.org to help them find new ways to do that. So now what we're going to do is access a resource in our resource library by clicking on the PSE resource link at the top of the page. So now, as you can see, we're currently in our PSE resource library. Here you'd be able to find a large collection of web-based tools, websites, and other resources that we've gathered to help you all doing work in community nutrition environments to find these resources that may be helpful in your work. So as you can see, our resource library main page is broken down into several features, and we have a navigation bar in the middle of the page that will help you figure out how to find your different resources. So first, we are able to have our resource library broken down into the 4 PSE topic areas. So if you click on the first pull-down menu under Select Topic, you'd be able to see the 4 areas here. So today we'd be working on farm to school, so we would click on that. So when you do come to the library, though, just be aware that the default topic is farmers market. And so in order for you to navigate to a different PSE topic area, you'll just have to click down and then click on the topic area of choice. If you'd like to further sift through the resources within a certain PSE topic area, you would go to Select Category. And here you can find different topic areas from logistics to nutrition education menus and recipes to working with farmers. And that would help filter out the resources that pertain to that certain category area. So for today's walkthrough, we'll go through the farm to school resources to see what's there. So as you probably can see, resources are organized in alphabetical order. You can further refine your search by entering a key term in the search resources field. And if you do that, all the resources with that title, with that term in its title, will pop up for you. So in the video, we heard about the importance of finding new ways to introduce new vegetables to the students who are often wary of trying new foods. So using the PSE library, you'd be able to find easy, kid-friendly recipes that can help students try new foods that they helped plant and harvest, while also teaching them how to use them in a recipe. So in order to do so, you would click on the categories, and then you scroll down to nutrition education, menus, and recipes. And after clicking on that topic area, you'd be able to see all the resources that fall under nutrition, education, and recipes. So let's say you wanted to find a new recipe. If you wanted to, you could search in the resource field, recipes, and that would pop up several resources that you might be interested in. So as you can see, we have several resources that pop up for us. So if we clicked on, let's say you're interested in the 4th resource. If you clicked on that link, it'll pop up in a separate tab in order to keep your resource library open on your current page and also allowing you to navigate this new resource. So this website right here by Wellness in Schools, it's a website where you'd be able to find creative recipes and other resources that will support your efforts to introduce new foods to children that you're working with. So as you can see, there are different topic areas for the recipes, but let's say you're interested in the featured recipe that's advertised. And here we can learn how to make a curried cauliflower soup. That's pretty easy to prepare. It also gives you procedures and steps on how to prepare the foods, and it should take you no longer than half an hour to create. So let's say the master growers found this recipe, this website with this recipe, and wanted to save this resource later on. So with an account with pscreadi.org, they would be able to bookmark this resource by clicking on the red heart on the bottom. And that would allow them to create over time a list of resources that they could use in the future. They would then be able to bring this list back, let's say to their partners at the school, or maybe school administration or other teachers or other master growers, to help strategize how to best figure out how to incorporate these new recipes in the school menu in order to meet the needs and interests of the students, and to also introduce them to new foods. So over time, if the master growers continue to use this bookmark function, they would be able to create their own personalized resource library in a sense. And they'd be able to navigate that by going back to the main menu and then clicking on My Accounts, but that I will show you later on. Let's say the master growers wanted to share this resource with other master growers that they work with or other partners working in farm to school efforts at the school. So pscreadi.org has many different ways to share resources through social media, such as using Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. As you can see, we have the social media buttons right next to the favoriting function, so it's very easily accessible. And if you clicked on any one of these icons, the social media account of your choice would also pop up in a different tab, keeping open the resource library while allowing you to share your resource with your partners and your network. So as we all know, social media is a very quick and easy way to share useful information and resources with colleagues that may also be doing work that you're doing. But what if your contacts don't use social media? So pscreadi.org also has a function that will allow you to email resources to your contacts. So if you clicked on the envelope icon, it'll open up a share resource field, which is actually going to email the resource title and the link, the direct link to your contact. So as many of you have been doing this work, I'm sure that you've found resources along your way that you found really valuable. So if you think that there's a resource that we do not yet have in our resource library, you can send these recommendations over to us to consider to add to our resource library by clicking on the submission form link on the top of the page. So if you clicked here, it'll ask you some information about the resource that you'd like us to consider, and then that email will be sent to BCOP at Case Western to consider. As we are always updating our resource library, we definitely will take these recommendations to heart.
Okay, so as Karen gets ready to help us navigate our PSEs in action, please don't forget to use the chat feature to ask us questions and interact with your fellow attendees. As a reminder, we will answer your questions during the Q&A segment of today's webinar.
So there are times where you may be doing your work and you feel like you're having struggles that others might not be having, or that your efforts aren't big enough to create real change in your community. So we created the PSE in Action video series to help inspire and encourage community nutrition practitioners doing PSE work. So you'll actually hear stories from practitioners in Ohio and community members doing this work, and hear some of their successes and some of their challenges that they've had along the way. So to access the video series, we're going to navigate back to our main landing page. Then we're going to click on PSEs in Action at the top banner. So this is where we were able to see the, learn a little bit more about the Benjamin Franklin Elementary School. But as you can see, we have a video playlist for each of the PSC topic areas. And like I mentioned before, these are practitioners in Ohio sharing their successes and challenges while they assess, plan, and act on their PSC programs. So after today's training, we definitely encourage you to check some of them out, including the one that we used today for our case study if you didn't get a chance to, if you'd like to watch it again. But we do have other videos from other practitioners in Ohio sharing some of their stories. on their PSE projects. Now at this time, we're going to explore the Policy, Systems, and Environmental Readiness Assessment and Decision Instrument, also known as the PSE READI. So this is the main assessment that we have on the website that will help you figure out the level of readiness and capacity to carry out new PSEs or to change some of the plans that you have for your current PSE work in your farm to school efforts. So taking a PSE READI will allow you to not only assess how you are at this point with your work, but it would give you a tailored report with 3 recommendations that you can use to make your immediate next steps to strengthen your PSE planning efforts and your PSE projects. So today we're going to be walking through the individual assessment for the farm to school PSE topic area. So let's say our master growers that we met in the video and the school administration wanted to assess their capacity to increase their use of locally grown foods in their meal prep at the school cafeteria. So they would be able to take an individual assessment to measure their level of readiness and capacity to successfully do this. So to take the assessment, they would click on My Account at the top of the page, and that would take them to the main account dashboard. So on this dashboard, you'll see 3 subtabs underneath the main toolbar on the top of the page that will allow them to access different pages. So we're currently in My Assessments, and this is where the 4 PSEs in the different topic areas, the 4 PSE READIs in the different topic areas can be found. So if you clicked on My Bookmarks, you'd be able to access the resources that you previously favorited. So like we mentioned before, you are able to create your own list of resources that you want to come back to. And so instead of having to navigate the whole resource library again, you already have your own tailored list of resources that you can access anytime you like. And then if you have to update anything in your account, maybe you forgot your password or you want to update the county that you work in, you would just go under My Profile. So now we're going to quickly walk through an individual assessment. So we're going to navigate back to My Assessments. And then we're going to go over to Farm to School and click to start. So here you'll see an example of what an assessment page will look like. And this basic format will look the same regardless of the PSE topic area that you're taking the PSE READI for. So the purpose of each assessment is to think of one specific county, area, or zip code where you're doing your work to assess your current efforts and to see where you can move from there in your PSE READI work. So it's really important to just think of one specific area if you do happen to work in several, so that you can get the most tailored report to help guide your work. So let's quickly walk through the registration process for your PSE READI assessment. So first, you're going to think of the county that you'll be focusing on for your PSE READI. So in our case study, the master growers were working in Cuyahoga County at the Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, so we're going to choose Cuyahoga. Next, you're going to think of the service area that you or those you support work in. So you would be able to define that service area as you see fit. So it might make sense to choose a zip code or think of the city or town that the school is found in, or even the school district. So for our PSE READI today, we're going to type in Cleveland for the city that the school is in. And finally, we recommend that you name your PSE READI something meaningful. You may end up taking several over the course of your time using the PSE READI website. So it's really important to think of a name that you'll remember, that will help you remember why you took the assessment. So perhaps the school administrator would name theirs Benjamin Franklin Elementary Farm to School. We also suggest you putting the date as well. So as we mentioned before, everyone doing PSE Ready work is going to be in a different place in their projects. And as PSE journeys are all different, sometimes you start a project on your own and then decide to collaborate with other people. So pscready.org allows you to decide whether you want to take your assessment as an individual or a team. So you'd be able to use our decision tree that we created to help you make that choice. And then there's also a list of potential team members if you'd like to take the PSE Ready later on as a team. So let's say you're a master grower and you want to start working with administration. So maybe administrator would be on your team, maybe another teacher would be on your team, maybe even a parent would want to also help your efforts. And so you can decide to take that as a team at that time. But for today, we're just going to walk through the individual assessment. Although today we're focusing on the individual assessment, we will have trainings in the future that will be focused solely on the team assessment. So please stay tuned. So after you click submit, this is what your assessment will look like. And each assessment, regardless of the PSE topic area that you're taking it for, will have the same general format. So at the top, it gives you some examples of farm to school PSE interventions that you may be working on. But again, this is not an exhaustive list. And then we have some definitions on what some of the key terms and the questions mean. And so this will help you better decide how you want to respond to the questions that are being asked. So I would just like to highlight some answer choices, including the don't know and the not applicable options. So don't know is usually for a question if you're not really sure if it pertains to the work that you're currently doing. And not applicable should be used if it doesn't apply to your work at all. So we recommend that you use these two choices sparingly because it will affect the way that your report will come out. If you want the most tailored report, you should answer each of your questions to the best of your abilities using not at all too extremely. So with the PSE Ready, there are no right or wrong answers. So you would just think about the questions and you would answer them to the best of your knowledge. And so we recommend that each assessment should take about 15 minutes. Although it's not a very long assessment, it's really important to think about the questions and even come back later on if you're not really sure of a question that you're being asked, just to give the best tailored answer in order to get the most specific report for you at the end. So once you've completed the report, you can click Save and Finish. If you do need to come back, you can also click on Save. So you do have those two options. So today, since we won't be completing this assessment, we're going to click Save. But in order for you to have your report generated, you would click Save and Finish. And once you click Save and Finish, after answering all of your questions, you will get your report immediately generated. And in a few minutes, Jennifer will walk us through what a report will look like, generated from an assessment that we've taken previous to today's webinar. So today we're covering a lot of details on pscready.org, and you may have some questions that come up after the webinar. So we would direct you to the FAQ section, which has more information on the development of the PSE Ready tool, things about how to create an account, how to take the PSE as an individual and on a team, and the kinds of information that you can get from the report.
Okay. So really quick, we're going to have you all participate in another poll. Just give us 1 second to pull that up. Okay. So this poll is asking, what type of partners do you work with on farm to school PSE initiatives? And again, just like the first poll, you should be able to select all that apply. Okay, we're going to give you about 10 more seconds to go ahead and participate in the poll.
Okay, great. So it seems that we have a lot of variety in the different PSE initiatives that we're seeing that you're working on, and the different partners that you are partnering with. So as like I mentioned before, we won't have time to go over the team assessment today, but if you'd like to learn more about the team function, why you want to take a PSE Ready as a team and factors to consider, we would direct you to the FAQ section that does go through that a little bit more. And like we mentioned before, we will be doing trainings in the future about how to think about, creating a team and taking the team assessment together.
Okay, so Karen, I definitely want to thank you for your detailed overview of the website and the resources that are available for practitioners to develop, implement, and sustain successful farm-to-school PSE projects. So now that we've reviewed the resource and assessment features of the PSE Ready website, we'll actually have a guest come on and talk to us a little more about her experience with PSEs, specifically with Farm to School, and what resources she was able to locate in the resource library. And then just give us a little more about how she has been successful in helping others to implement PSEs in Farm to School. So we're going to introduce Carol Smathers, who is an OSU Extension Field Specialist, as well as the Ohio Farm to School Program Director. Carol, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in this great PSE Ready training today. As Jennifer said, I'm Carol Smathers. I am the director of Ohio Farm to School. So I'm based in Family and Consumer Sciences within Ohio State University Extension on the main campus. And I have a great network of Extension colleagues throughout the state. For those of you on the call who may not be familiar with Extension, we have specialists in all 88 counties, and we have specialists in agriculture, in community development, in nutrition education, and then 4-H youth development. So I have had the pleasure of working on developing PSE Ready and working with communities on using it. And as she said, I've been asked to share a few of the resources that are part of the PSE Ready library related to Farm to School. I thought, first of all, I would mention the resource that's called Bearing Fruit, Farm to School Evaluation Resources. And this is an excellent guide to evaluation, but as it's pointed out in recommendations given through the PSE Ready, the first step in implementing PSE in expanding farm to school policy system and environment changes in the community is talking with community members about their ideas around farm to school, their motivations, their interests, and particularly schools, teachers, administrators, and food service. So the PSE Ready points you to Bearing Fruit, the Farm to School Evaluation Resource Guide, as a source for informational interview questions, some guides to what would you even want to ask out in your community to get the conversation started, to get the initiative started. And then beyond that, it's an excellent guide. It has sections for measuring impacts in numerous areas. There's a section on measuring student impacts. What can you expect to happen to improve after implementing particular farm to school activities? So school impact, student impacts, teacher impacts, policy impacts, food service impacts, and then parent, farmer, and community in general. So I think that's an excellent resource that's provided. And then, you know, we're educators, but beyond, so we can find resources for incorporating more local foods education in our with our nutrition education, as well as we can connect the teachers, the educators, the food service staff in our communities with resources that help them to routinely and consistently teach about local foods and promote local. And so PSE READI has great resources for that, everything from team nutrition to just various classroom learning guides, curriculum databases. Some of my favorites are instructions for an in-depth guide for a farm field trip. So specifically, what would you do if you took kids to a farm or to a farmer's market? And then for those that can't afford the time or can't afford the cost of doing the actual field trip, the PSE READI points us to a resource that's a virtual farm field trip. So those would be just a few that I would highlight to get you started.
Thank you, Carol, for your expertise in Farm to School and sharing some really great resources with our attendees. As we get into following up with our attendees, I'll make sure that we share the titles of these resources so that they're easy to find in the PSE READI library. So I know that Carol has to return to a meeting, so we're going to go ahead and let her go. But she really encompassed what I will review next, which is the tailored report that you will receive once you have completed your PSE READI assessment. So in order to get ourselves started, we'll go back to the landing page, which again is the starting point for the BCOP website. And in order to access our completed assessments, we'll click on My Account at the top of the page. And again, you'll see the 4 PSE areas listed with the assessments. And under that, you'll see the assessments that you have either started or saved. By looking under the completed column, it will read one of the following. You will have started, meaning that you've saved an assessment that needs to be finished. You will also have a date, which indicates that you have finished and submitted the assessment on this particular date. And again, Karen mentioned that it's important to record the date when naming the PSE assessment because it will then indicate when you started taking the assessment. While not visible right now, you may also see the word pending under the completed column. This means that you have created an assessment profile, but have not started to answer any of the questions for the assessment itself. So from this list, you can perform 3 tasks. You can retake the assessment, which will lead to the 3-step process to name and start a new assessment. You can choose to share the report, which will open a share assessment text box to email that report to your colleagues. And finally, you can view the report by clicking on the name of the completed assessment, which we will do now. Now, please remember that this report is generated immediately after you click finish or save and finish. However, Karen did demonstrate how you can save an assessment to be completed at a later date or time. Once open, you will see the name of the assessment, the email associated with your account, and the date of completion, all auto-populated at the top of each report. You can also share this document with colleagues by email or print it out by clicking on the icons to the right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 2 sections on your report, starting with recommendations. As you select the recommendation that you'd like to view from the collapsed list, you will be given advice on where to begin or continue your work in your PSE area of focus. The related resources will be listed below and are often referenced in the recommendation with specific page numbers. And they can be opened similarly as you saw in the resource library, which you can also visit by clicking on the link at the top of the page that it says explore additional resources. In addition to the tailored recommendations that are provided on the report, you will also receive a detailed profile for the county in which your target area or community lies. By simply clicking on the data profile that you'd like to view from the list, you can use this information to highlight areas of strength or identify challenges that may be considered when planning PSEs with your organization or your stakeholders. It may also be useful in grant writing and work plan development based on your community's readiness and capacity for change. Additionally, what's included below the profile are the resources that we use to gather the data points, which you can explore further to find any additional county or state level data that you can use when preparing those grant applications, kind of getting that buy-in from your stakeholders and from your community members. Now, we're going to go ahead and navigate back to our slides. And while we're doing so, we're going to go ahead and take a step back and a deep breath, because that was quite a bit to go over on the website and really understand what all you can use the website for. So with the website, we want to kind of go over these key features again, which is using it for PSE resources. That includes the library and the PSEs in action to help generate new ideas. Using the PSE Ready assessment to determine the starting point for your PSE programs, as well as using the PSE Ready reports to help guide decisions on PSE plans and really put those plans into action. Now, collectively, these features will help you assess your readiness and capacity for change, plan your programs and interventions, and most importantly, actively implement them in your community. So you may be asking yourself, what do I do next? Over the next week, we encourage you to continue exploring the website and become familiar with its features. Share 1 to 3 resources within your networks of colleagues, take an individual assessment, and then review the report, and share that report with your colleagues. Not only will this step of exercises help you to really train your brain to use the PSE Ready website, they're also a great way to build up that confidence in your ability to implement PSEs. So again, in the registration process, we kind of asked you guys a couple of questions, and one question was about your confidence in implementing PSEs. We saw that only about 18% of you reported high confidence in this area, but we really want you to use the PSE Ready to be able to build up that confidence and ultimately support your PSE work. So now, before we transition to the Q&A segment of the webinar, we would like for you to quickly share one word that describes how you feel about using the PSE Ready after today's website walkthrough. Okay, so really quickly, it's awesome that we're seeing the word confident. Motivated, hopeful, excited, ready to use the PSE Ready. That's really awesome. Okay, one attendee shared that they're comfortable with using the tools, informed, and we're getting a couple of repeats of being motivated and being hopeful. So that's really enthusiastic and inspiring for us that we were able to help you all kind of be able to share those feelings about the PSE Ready after today's webinar, which again is our hope that you use the tool to develop implement, and sustain community nutrition programs that help make the healthy choice the easy choice. So now, very quickly, we will open the floor for the Q&A session. We would certainly like for you all to send us in any questions that you may have asked or that you may want to ask after today's webinar. And if we do not have time to answer your question during the webinar, we will definitely be sure to follow up with you after the webinar is closed. So to get us started, we will kind of respond to some questions that have been asked during previous trainings. So you may be asking yourself, how often should I take an assessment? You can retake your PSE Ready every 6 months, whenever you made progress in your PSE work or have made changes to your PSE programming. This way, you will be assessing your work at your current phase or stage and get new recommendations that will further help you in your work. What should you do if you can't open a resource that is either in the library or in your report? Because all of our resources are web-based, there will be times where links will be broken for resources, or the organization hosting that resource may relocate it on their website. Please don't worry about that. We are continuously updating our broken links, and we continuously do a review of the resource library. However, if you do find a link that no longer works, we would certainly appreciate if you send us an email with that resource information to bcop@case.edu to help us out in this process. Now, can you take an assessment in a PSE area where you have little or no experience? This is absolutely a yes. The assessments were created to assess where users are in their PSE work. Prior experience or knowledge is not necessary in order to take the PSE Ready. Your report will reflect this and will give you 3 immediate first steps to take in the PSE planning efforts. So in the interest of time, we see that we do have a question that was asked in our chat box. And the question is, when and where will recorded BCOP webinars be posted? So we are actually working with our website developers to have the recordings available on the psereadi.org website. Once they are available for all attendees, even if you didn't attend a webinar, for all who visit the website, we will send out an email and let you know that the recordings are available. So we want to just go ahead and thank you for joining us today as we highlighted the features of the psereadi.org, demonstrated how to complete an individual assessment, and reviewed the use of the tailored report. As we close today's webinar, we hope that you have enjoyed the presentation, and we look forward to you joining us next time to learn more about how to use the PSE Ready tool to achieve success and address challenges that may be related to healthy food retail, which will take place on Friday, March 1st at 10 o'clock in the morning. You will receive a registration link in the near future. I know that some of you may be wondering about the farmers market webinar, which was canceled due to the very cold weather that we had a couple weeks ago. That has been rescheduled to Tuesday, March 12th at 11 a.m. And again, a registration link will be sent to you. Please be sure to take 5 minutes to help us improve our future PSE Ready webinars and trainings. This survey will pop up as soon as we close the webinar, so do not close your Zoom portal. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge our BCOP project funders. And if you have any questions, please contact the BCOP team at bcop@case.edu. Again, the webinar is being recorded and will be accessible in the near future. This will conclude our PSE Ready series webinar number 3, Farm to School. We thank you again for joining us, and we hope you all have a great day. done. Okay, and now we're done.